What is going on, everybody? Happy New Year and welcome back to the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. New year, new me. Just kidding. Same me, less voice. It's all right. My voice is a little hoarse, but it's fine. I sound a little bit like Janet Reno, but we'll survive. I think like maybe 4 people will get that reference, but what's going on, Cliffy? How you doing?
I mean, I get that reference mostly because I watched Saturday Night Live religiously in the early and mid 90s. Doing well. Better than Canada's junior team, that's for sure. They got bounced this morning on a last-second goal against Czechia. That was, those things happen, I guess. Tough break for them, but big monster slate here tonight. Some tough matchups, some lopsided matchups. The late night hammers look interesting. There's the big $20, $100K, $20K to first on DK tonight. So quite the spicy slate to get back into things here on the first show of 2024.
Yeah. I like NHL back on the normal bullshit. 13 games today, 1 tomorrow, 14 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, something like that. We'll be here Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday this week. Big, small, big, small, big, small. You know, it is what it is. But as long as I can speak and you're not shivering, we will be here.
As long as I have power and I'm not laying in bed in a pool of my own sweat, I'll be all right.
Yeah. Crazy couple weeks there, but we're back and let's start breaking down this slate. As always, thank you guys so much for the support over the past few weeks. I know in the next week or so, it is like the start of the season was October 10th. So people probably signed up October 9th, October 10th, October 11th. I know your memberships, if you're monthly, are coming up soon. If you want to re-up through the affiliate link, that would mean a big deal for us. That supports us directly, helps us bring you content, and you're paying the same amount anyway. It's just, you're supporting us directly. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
We should also mention a couple of guys had pretty good New Year's Eve performances. Oliver Atticus in the Discord took down, it was the $15 that he took down, wasn't it? Yeah, he had a really big score there right at the end of the year. And then Frostback, he had, I think he had a kind of a tough, first 6 weeks of the season or whatever. Over the last month, he's just been absolutely crushing it. He had another takedown as well on New Year's Eve. So congrats to them. Good way to finish out 2023. Let's hope we can start 2024 just as strongly.
Yeah. Frostback in the chat. Riding that Columbus 2 wave. The comrade line, Tupac. Let's make some changes.
Shout out to the guy that asked if it was a Marc Messier t-shirt. Yeah, not that big of a Messier fan, but that would have been interesting. But no, got to rep Tupac here on our first show of 2024.
It could have been my head too. That would have been even funnier.
I'll do that for the last show of 2024 or something. Just a face of you, doing like a prayer pose or something. Yeah.
Let's get into this slate. Boston Bruins with a 3.8 total. Heading into Columbus, the Blue Jackets have a 2.7 total. My dogs wanted to fight. That's cool. Spencer Martin for Columbus. Not that it matters. Bruce Willis. No mention of Bruce Willis. Hey, it could have been Bruce Willis. Could have been. We need a red 3. Okay. Not much ownership in this game on the Columbus side for good reason. Boston goaltending has been very good this season. You want to keep chasing the comrade line, go for it. Not my cup of tea. There are other filler lines that I like much better in better spots tonight. The question is what to do with Boston, right? I'm not a huge fan of the Zacha, Geeky, Pasternak line. I like them as players. I just don't like how it's constituted. I think a one-off Pasternak is always in play. I kind of like that second line. Coyle, DeBrusk, Marchand a bit more from a stacking standpoint. I think, you can full stack the top line if you want, but I'm more on Boston 2 here. And again, unless you're getting down to the nitty-gritty of your 150, I'm probably out on Columbus.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton of interest in the Blue Jackets here. I mean, the top line's actually been fine with Danforth and Fantilli there. Like, they're actually scoring goals, like over 3 goals per 60 minutes since Danforth got moved up. Like, and they're actually generating, close to 3 expected goals per 60 minutes. So they've been fine. It's just not really a great matchup. And the thing is Boston takes so many penalties. Like, Boston's been one of the most penalized teams in the league basically since American Thanksgiving. And, you have all those guys down on the second line on the top power play unit. So that's kind of what sucks about this here. So, yeah, I don't have a ton of interest in Columbus. On the Boston side, it does look like there's going to be, rightly so, there's going to be some ownership on the Boston top 6. I'll bring up the top stacks tools real quick. Nearly 14% on Boston 1, nearly 8% on Boston 2, and even a little bit on Boston 3. I think rightly so, 3.8 total. And the big difference with this Columbus team right now is, I guess I should probably bring the show back up. The big difference with the Columbus team right now is without Boone Jenner and Sean Corrali, those are their 2 best penalty killers. And this was a team who was staying close in some games, through the first 6-8 weeks because their penalty kill was actually fine, sometimes good. It's been atrocious lately. That's one thing I mentioned in the picks article. Free to read most days up on Stokastic.com, except like this week with the weird like 1-13, 2-14 schedule or whatever. Like might not be every day this week, but what I mentioned is though Jenner and Crowley, the best expected goals against metrics on the penalty kill this season. They're both injured. They've given up a power play goal per game over their last 9 games, which is the span since Jenner's been out. So it's been really tough sledding for that PK. So like, I don't even mind like a broken top 6 stack. We used to call that a Jill stack. So, do something like, Pasternak with Marchand and Zach, or Pasternak and just Pasternak and Marchand, pair of wingers or something like that. I have no problem going in that direction. I really do like David Pasternak here tonight. It's just he's going to be, highly owned, and I'm not a big fan of his line either. I would just focus on the Boston power play guys, and if you want to off Pasternak, like all the power to you. I think that's more than doable. Even if he's like 15% or 20% owned, I have no problem with that on a slate this large. I really like the Boston power play guys. We'll talk about defensemen later. Other than that, that's about all the interest I have.
Yeah. I always forget that the broken top 6 stack is called the Jill stack, which we probably can't even say anymore. Someone might get offended in the Discord. Let's move on to the next one. Carolina Hurricanes with a 2.9 total. Heading into New York, the Rangers have a 3.1 total. Absolutely no ownership in this game whatsoever. None. Nada. Zilch. Highest owned line projected at 0.6%. That's the Rangers' second line. Panarin's coming off a hat trick, if I remember correctly. The last few days have been a bit wonky for my brain, but that's not really different than any other day of the year. But also Carolina 1 coming in at 0.6% projected. Then everything else is under 0.5% projected. So, I mean, I don't mind this Rangers second line. It's at home. They're going to avoid the stall line. We got the bacon bark of approval. Carolina goaltending has been better. Kochetkov has been better. But, like, as an ownership play, I don't mind getting to some Rangers top line here in MME.
Yeah, Kochetkov has been a lot better. That's kind of the one thing that's scaring me from the Rangers here is, he had a bad start to the season. Like all their goalies had a bad start to the season. But since December 1st, 11 starts, 915 save percentage. Like that's not super elite or anything, but when you're facing a team with a great penalty kill and great 5-on-5 defense, like a 915 save percentage is very often going to lead to 2 goals or fewer, and that's just like not enough for DFS purposes. Like those 11 starts, 1 game with more than 3 goals against, and only 4 out of the 11 with at least 3 goals. Like the fact that he's not a Civ anymore is the one thing that worries me from playing the Rangers. If I were to do anything, I would probably just go back to that second line here. They're just playing so well at the moment, and they've been getting more top line matching, like not exclusively. Like it's one thing we should also mention. Like when we talk about line matching, there are very few teams where you're going to see like 100% or even like 90% of one line against another in any given game. Hockey's just way too fluid for that. But they have been getting some more top line matching, and I think that's notable for this matchup in particular, because Svechnikov and Aho, like they've been tremendous offensively. Don't get me wrong. But 32.5 shots against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5 together, like that's below league average. And 2.8 expected goals against per 60 minutes, also below league average. Like Kochetkov playing better is one thing that's helped that line look better themselves. So I don't necessarily have a particular problem playing that Rangers line, especially where the top stacks tool has them coming in under 1% ownership. Like anytime you can get a line that good at under 1%, even on a slate this big, I think you have to at least consider them. They're not a target of mine. There's no real line that really is a target of mine. Like if anything, I honestly think I would have the most interest in Carolina 1 here. Aho and Svechnikov, like Svechnikov really does look like he's turned a corner. Like it seemed like he needed about 10 games to kind of get his legs under him, which makes sense when you consider the catastrophic knee injury he's coming back from. They're coming in under 1% owned as well. I don't mind Carolina 1 here. I think I'd favor them over over Rangers 2. But this does seem like a game where, unless I'm playing 150 lineups, like if I'm playing single entry or 3 max, this doesn't seem like the spot. With Kochetkov is playing better, like Shesterkin's looked great over the last couple of weeks. Like it just seems like one of those games where it's going to be like 3-1 for either one of the teams by the end of it, maybe with an empty net or something. So not a lot of stacking interest for me.
Yeah, and I have no stats to back this up, but Rangers, Carolina always feels low scoring. So whatever that.
I mean, I can't check that right off the top of my head,
Yeah,
so I'm just gonna have to take your word for it.
Like especially their playoff series, you rarely see a blowout game. It's a lot of 3-2 affairs, but it's obviously not playoffs. But maybe I'm just an idiot. Washington Capitals with a 2.6 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.3 total. Brian Rust is back, and he goes to the second line with Malkin and Riley Smith also on the second power play unit. Not that really matters. The first power play unit is atrocious. Second power play unit, probably even worse. I didn't see any news on Pacioretty. I don't know if he's back.
They had him skating as an extra in practice yesterday. So like on the quote 5th line or whatever. I'm pretty sure Washington plays tomorrow as well. So I think the plan would probably be give him a rest tonight, play him tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be Ovechkin, Wilson, Kuznetsov like they ran last game. And like, I guess it makes sense to try Kuznetsov on the wing. It can't possibly be worse than he has been at center. I don't know. But like for me, this is a Pitt 1 game. Raquel's still wildly underpriced. They are fully correlated, right?
Yeah.
Raquel's on the top unit.
Yeah. Rust is going to be on the second power play unit, it looks like.
Our resident geriatric, Larry Bikes, he dropped a stat in the chat since Raquel, when moved up to the top power play unit, they have like 15.89 expected goals and like 9 actual goals. So they're getting a bit unlucky. So this is a pretty good power play spot, I guess. Like with Pittsburgh, nothing's really a good power play spot. So if anything, I do like Pitt 1 here because they're under 20,000. They're coming in with positive leverage. You want to go to that second line with Russ there, I think that's fine as well. Like there's no matchup on Washington that's going to scare me. Kemper has been good recently, but like it's Darcy Kemper. I'm on the Pittsburgh side here. I don't have a ton of interest in Washington except maybe some cheap 2-mans like McMichael Mantha.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh power play has been better like very recently, like the last few weeks, and even better still like middle of the road. So like, you know, when your power play is vastly improved and it's still average, like that probably speaks to just how much it has been struggling. There's not really much of a sample on the top line with Raquel there. Like, you know, they're up to about 80 minutes on the season, 3.4 expected goals. It's pretty good. It's not as good as when Rust was there earlier in the season, but still pretty good. The thing is like they're probably going to see quite a bit of that Kuznetsov matchup. And like, I don't know what Dylan Strome did to the coaching staff in Washington. Like I don't know if he put like like diarrhea medicine in all their coffees like for like a week straight or something? Because like
it was estrogen.
I don't know what it is.
In the locker room, just his nipples were tender. But go ahead.
I feel like that's from a movie. Like I
Oh
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, with Kevin Nash. Starts getting in touch with his feelings. Dylan Strom's far and away their best center, and it's like it's not even close. And it's been that way since last year. I get that they have to try to make it work with Kuznetsov because it's like an $8 million contract. He's got another year left. Like, you probably can't move it, et cetera, et cetera. You don't really want him on the fourth line. But that line sucks, man. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, nearly 100 minutes together this year, 4.2 expected goals against per 60 minutes. Like, it's a good penalty kill at 5-on-5 for Washington when he's on the ice with Wilson and Ovechkin. 5 actual goals against per 60 minutes. Like, that's a tremendous matchup for this Pittsburgh top line. And they're getting some ownership, 7.3%, but that's nothing extreme. And they're under 20K, so they're not prohibitively expensive. You can go still fit in a decent secondary stack elsewhere. I really do like this Pittsburgh top line, especially with Kemper in net. Like, Kemper just really has not looked good basically the entire season. Like, Charlie Lindgren getting hurt is one of the things that's really going to kill their playoff chances. I think Kemper's only had like 1 or 2 starts this year with 1 goal against. Like, you could probably rely on Pittsburgh at least popping a couple here tonight. I really do like Pittsburgh one. They're one of my favorite, best rated. Top Stacks has the same thing. One of the top rated primary stacks on the slate here tonight. They're top 5 by top 2 stack probability. So I really do like Pitt 1. If you want to drop down to Pitt 2, there's not a ton of ownership. Obviously, a lower top 2 stack probability. The reason I don't mind Pitt 2 either is, like, the one thing Washington does have is a very good penalty kill, and they've had that basically all season long, and it's maintained itself even over the last month. They added Ethan Bear on the blue line, so, you know, that'll help with some of their injuries. So I don't really mind going to Pitt 2, but I think I would rather just go to the line that's in the best matchup. That's Pittsburgh 1. The line, you know, Gensel and Crosby have been great at 5-on-5 basically all season. And if they can pop one on the power play, then they could really get things rolling. So, yeah, Pittsburgh 1, I would have amongst my top 5 stacks here tonight.
I think I agree with you, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Let's talk about your Habs. Montreal Canadiens with a 2.5 total heading into Dallas. The Stars have the biggest total on the slate, 4. 4s are more common now. We're seeing a lot. Well, we're seeing a lot of 4s against the Sharks, but they are a bit more common. Interesting, because the top line for Dallas is similarly priced to Pittsburgh 1. They have a very similar top 2 stack percentage and a very similar ownership share. All things being equal, I think I like Pittsburgh 1 better, just because you know they're going to get the minutes. It's a better power play spot for Dallas. Don't get me wrong. And they have been generating more. I just happen to like Dallas depth here a little bit more. I think, you know, like, depending on your build, because you can't really jam together Pitt 1, Dallas 1. So I do like the Sagan, Duchesne, Marchment line. They're coming in a little bit negative leverage, but I also do like this Wyatt Johnston, Ben Dadonov line. I don't know if you need to full stack, but the thing is, like, last year, this line was a wagon. They got off to an awful start this year.
Like, this line was the Duchesne Sagan line. Like, last year, they were doing what the Duchesne Sagan line's doing this year.
Yeah, and whatever it was, Jamie Benn off to slow. Like, Jamie Benn went on an unreal hot streak, but that was on the power play, right? So, like, he's starting to play better. Wyatt Johnston's starting to play better. Dadonov, you know, he's super cheap. The line's super cheap, excuse me. But they're going to be facing the Montreal depth. And listen, there's no line that really scares me. So, like, as much as I do like Dallas 1 here tonight, and I think I'm in more on the depth of Dallas. On the Montreal side, with Wedgwood still in net, like, this is a good defensive team. Wedgwood isn't Jake Ottinger. I'll probably take a stab or 2 in MME on Montreal top line, 15,400 coming in at their top 2 stack percentage.
Yeah, I think one thing that's helping out the Dallas top line is because they've been struggling a bit at 5-on-5 this season, especially compared to last year, the Seguin Duchesne line has actually been taking some more top line matchups in recent games, and that's freeing up that Dallas top line to go up against second and third lines from the opposition more often. And, I make the note in my picks article again, because I talk about the Johnston, Bent, and Donoff line in there. When the Montreal top line has been onto the ice since Slavkovsky got moved up, it's 21% more shot attempts against Montreal. A lot of it coming from the Josh Anderson line because, he's scoring goals, but they're still not good defensively. So I kind of agree with you that it is a better power play matchup for Dallas. I also think it's not really a bad 5-on-5 matchup for the Dallas top line, because if they were going out against the Suzuki line, I'd be a little bit concerned about their 5-on-5 generation, but I don't think they're going to see that much of the matchup. So I do like Dallas one. I agree with you. I'd rather play Pitt one here. I do have Pitt one a little bit higher. But it is that Johnston, Ben, Donoff line that I talk about, because the Seguin line as well as the fourth line are getting some of the top line matchups, and the top line is as well, but they're doing a pretty good job of keeping that Johnston line against second and third lines. And they have been generating more often. What I mentioned in the article is that over the first 8 weeks, they're at 2.1 expected goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. And that number has jumped 35% over the last 4 weeks. And this is a pretty good matchup at home against a Montreal team whose depth is just really struggling defensively. Montembeault's in net. He's looked fine for most of the season. I don't think it really changes a whole lot. Montreal's been taking fewer penalties. I just like Dallas 3 because I'm fairly certain they're going to go out against the depth all game long. They're coming in a little bit overowned by top stacks leverage. But again, with most filler lines, you're going to get negative leverage. So if you use any filler line, you're just going to get negative leverage. That's just the way it is. But you get one guy in the top power play unit. I agree. If you want to leave the Donoff off and just two-man Johnston and Ben, I think that's fine. But I do like that Johnston line here tonight against the Habs. On the Montreal side, they're generating a lot. 3.3 expected goals per 60 minutes since Slavkovsky got there. That's not far off from the Pittsburgh top line that we just talked about. It is Wedgwood in net. He's been fine, probably league average. So it's not a great spot. Dallas doesn't take a ton of penalties either. I don't mind Montreal 1 because Montreal has been getting more power plays and the power play has been better with Slavkovsky there. So they're not super expensive. If you can get a couple goals and maybe somebody gets a shot bonus or something like that, you'll probably be fine in GPPs. But I think it's the Dallas Johnston line that I like best in this game.
I didn't even know you put it in your article. Look, we're on the same page twice in a row. I admittedly didn't read the article yet. I have been running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
That's perfectly fine.
I didn't know. I didn't know. I told you this morning when I did it. It's absolute scenes for me this morning. Calgary Flames with a 3.1 total heading into Minnesota. The Wild have a 3 total. Looks like Kirill Kaprizov is going to be out for a week or two. Philip Gustafsson week to week. Those are giant blows to Minnesota here. For some reason, Joe Eriksson, Matthew Boldy, Marcus Johansson getting 12% ownership on the slate. I get it. They've been aligned before John Hines was the coach there, so they have a sample, and Calgary goaltending hasn't been great. I will say Markstrom has looked better. And 2 seasons ago, he was probably a top 5 goalie in the league. So whatever happened between now and then, not sure, but I don't know. I don't really love playing a line at 12% that has Marcus Johansson on it. You want to, it is what it is. He was dust in Washington, and he comes to Minnesota, and all of a sudden, he's the man. But I almost prefer Rossi, Hartman, Nick Batan. But are we really going to do this Nick Batan thing again? And Hartman's one cross check away from being suspended until the 2031 season. So I guess a one-off Rossi is fine here. I think you can stack Minnesota 1. I just don't love the ownership. I get it from a you take ownership out. I get the matchup. I get whatever. It's fine. On Calgary, give Zari the minutes, my man. Give Kadri and Zari some minutes, and we will print. It would be a print factory. They're the best line. Connor Zari, you just look at his numbers. They're really good. Minutes are a concern there, but that's my favorite line for Calgary. My thoughts are done. Sorry.
Okay. No, I thought you just stopped because you were coughing. Yeah, I find myself really struggling to play an over-owned Minnesota on a 13-game slate when they have no Kirill Kaprizov. Like, that's kind of what it comes down to. You take by far the best offensive player on the team out of the lineup, and it's a team that really wasn't doing a lot of great things this year. Even after John Hines took over, like, they've been better, don't get me wrong. But they're still not, it's not like an elite team or anything like that. It's not like it's Colorado losing Lehkonen and you still have 3 superstars right behind them. Like that's not the situation here. The top line's been fine as assembled. 2.5 expected goals for, 2.4 against. Like, that's not bad. Boldy's been getting more ice time. He's over 20 minutes a game on average over his last 5 games. What would attract me to this matchup is they're probably going to see a fair bit of that Lindholm, Huberdeau, Sharangovich line. And just the top line with Sharangovich and Lindholm without Andrew Mangiapane beside them, like, they've really been getting badly outplayed. So I think Minnesota, especially where they're under 17K on DraftKings, I think Minnesota, they don't necessarily need a power play goal here tonight to reach value. The problem is like Markstrom is playing better. Minnesota, their power play does lose Kirill Kaprizov. The Calgary penalty kill has been better. So you're really, really needing them to pop at least 2 at 5-on-5, if not 3. And that's asking a lot for a line with Marcus Johansson on it. I'm not a fan of his. So an over-owned line in that situation, like, I'm fine passing on them. I think I agree with you, like a one-off Rossi, one off Hartman or whatever, like, that's fine. You want to one off Boldy, like, Boldy's only 6K. And you got to feel like if Minnesota does have a big game tonight, he's the one that's going to factor in on a lot of the goals, because he is now the most dangerous, offensive player that they have. So if you want to just one off Boldy, I think that's perfectly fine. But I'm not running out to stack Minnesota. On the Calgary side, I do have a little bit of interest in that Kadri, Zary, Pospisil line. For 2 reasons. One, Kadri has been shooting like a fair bit more. He has 19 shots over his last 5 games. That's almost 4 shots per game. That's pretty good. You're talking about Connor Zary. I was mentioning him on Twitter yesterday. Like, he's, by a lot of measures, he's been the best rookie in the NHL so far this season. It's just that he plays like 13 or 14 minutes or whatever, and Calgary's power play sucks, so he doesn't rack up the points. But Minnesota's penalty kill has not gotten better under John Hines. They're still like bottom 3 by shots against. Their goals against is still, right around the bottom 10. And with Gustafsson out, like, over the last 2 years, Gustafsson and Fleury have played the exact same amount of games for Minnesota. I was looking earlier. Fleury's been about league average by goals saved above expected, and Gustafsson is at 30 goals saved above expected. So, like, Gustafsson's been basically saving Minnesota 1 goal every 2 games, and Fleury's been league average. So it is a big drop off in net. So I don't mind the Kadri, Pospisil, Zary line, especially where, like I said, you get 2 guys on the top power play unit for what that's worth. They're not coming in with a ton of ownership. Like, we talk about how filler stacks can come in over owned. Like 1% top 2 or 1% ownership on DraftKings here tonight. Like, that's nothing. And I don't know if I'm going to chase after them in a single entry or something like that. But if I was playing a lot of lineups, I'd probably make sure to have some Calgary too in here. Other than that, that's about all the interest I have for stacking.
Yep. $1 super chat from Ryan Rennebaum. You my football homie? You the guy who asked the football question? You have a question? Just drop it in chat. We'll answer it. Could be football. Could be hockey. Man, let's move on to the next one here. But before we do, as we talked about, I see my internet is great again. But as we said at the top, thank you guys so much for the support recently. If you sign up through our affiliate link, it supports us directly, and that gets you access to the best NHL data and tools in the industry. You get player and ownership projections, the top stacks tools, the line combination, and the Discord, which is invaluable. Plenty of sharp minds in there willing to help you. Cliffy and I are always in there. Jake's always in there. Bunch of sharp players willing to help. So click through our affiliate link and sign up or renew, and we'll go from there. Let's move on to the next game here. Chicago Blackhawks with a 2.5 total. Heading into Nashville, the Predators have a 3.9. Let me pull this game up here. There we go. Negative leverage on Nashville 1. They're coming in almost 15% here tonight. I was hoping they'd come in less, but they're 17,200, so it makes sense here. Phil Forsberg having an unbelievable season. His minutes have been down a little bit, which is a bit concern. Oh, sorry. You're not my football guy, Ryan. I was just, my bad. You had a question. Thank you. But yeah, Nashville won a bit over-owned for my liking. I still think they're fine at the price if you're making some mid-range builds because they're kind of priced in no man's land where you can't fit them with the expensive ones, and you'll have a lot of salary left over if you stack them with the cheap line. So I think Nashville 1 is fine here. There's plenty of ways to get different. Just be aware of the ownership. I think I don't really love the depth, especially because they're getting like a decent amount of ownership. And like the second, third, and fourth lines have been jumbled almost every game. So it's kind of hard to pin down what exactly they're going to be doing in the depth. On the Chicago side, I guess Chicago 1's fine. I guess. The 13,600. It's a tough matchup 5-on-5, but it's a decent matchup for the power play. Like, I'm not going to hinge my night on Chicago 1. I think a Bedard 1-off is fine, but like, if you're an MME, I guess you can get to some of this line because, it is Bedard. They have a good power play spot, but not in love with Chicago here.
Yeah, I'll start on the Chicago side. Like, Beauvillier is back on the top line. He had been basically second, third, I think sometime fourth line after a handful of games when he came over from Vancouver. Like, he was brought in because Taylor Hall got hurt and they wanted somebody to play with Bedard, and they were so bad together they had to move Beauvillier down the lineup. They didn't have a huge sample together, but a little over 70 minutes, 2.3 expected goals for, 3.9 or 3.4, sorry, expected goals against. I can't even read my own writing here today. They were just getting their brains beat in. And, this Nashville line has had its ups and downs this season. They've been a little leaky defensively of late, but they're still generating well above league average expected goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Like, that's a matchup that greatly favors the Nashville top line. Nashville or Chicago's penalty kill is the one thing that's actually been good most of the year. Their goalies have started to let them down a little bit on the PK, which I think isn't like really a huge surprise when you look at who their goalies are. So I'm with you. I like Nashville 1 here. 15% ownership, like, just feels a bit high. But at that price, like, there are just enough different ways you can go. Like, at 17,200 on DraftKings, there's almost no line on the slate tonight that is out of price range. Like, that's why I don't mind Nashville 1, because you literally can go just about anywhere you want elsewhere. If they do pile on the goals, like a 3.9 total is a massive total here. Second highest on the slate here tonight, I believe. Maybe Philip Tomasino has a double dong or something like that, or like, Kiefer Sherwood has a 3-point game. But you got to think if Nashville does pile on the goals, that the top line figures in to a big part of it, especially where they're perfectly correlated on the power play. And as I said, the Chicago goaltending have been letting them down. So even though they are coming in over-owned, I do like Nashville 1 here. They're basically the only stack that I like. I don't have a lot of interest in Chicago until Beauvillier and Bedard show that they're better. Like, especially on a 13-game slate. Like, if this is like 7 or 8 games, I might play Chicago 1 on the road. Like, I'd at least consider it. But with 13 games, it just feels unnecessary to jam it in unless you're playing 150 lineups or something like that. So for me, like, I really do like Nashville 1. I think there are enough ways to get different because of their price point. Other than that, no real stacking for me.
Yeah, no objections there. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 2.8 total heading into Winnipeg. The Jets have a 3.2. Flowchart. The flowchart's back, my friends. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's back. And I don't know what to make of this one because Tampa Bay, is it a tough matchup? Is it? Especially with the way, just because John Cooper put Cirelli and Stamkos together with Kucherov, and Cirelli and Stamkos have awful, just terrible It's never going to work. I don't know why they keep trying to do it. Numbers together. Kucherov, I don't know if they've tried it with Kucherov. Maybe he's the one guy who can save them. Maybe on the offensive end, he can save them. But defensively, no. I do like Winnipeg one here. They're coming in with a little bit of positive leverage. 18,100. They're just a good line. Gabriel Velarde looking very, very good. I don't believe that Cirelli, Stamkos, Kucherov is going to be a line if they get down 2-0 in the second period. Like Braden Point is going to be back with Kucherov. Like it's just going to happen. Like death taxes and Point and Kucherov being together. Like John Cooper, if anything, is predictable in that manner. So if they get off to a rough start, you're going to see them together. For that reason, I think I don't love Tampa here. Also, Connor Hellebuyck is in that. He's having an unbelievable season. Leads the NHL in goal saves above expected with over 16 already, which is nuts. It's not even at the All-Star break yet. I think you can one-off Kucherov. I think you can one-off, Point or whatever. But, I have a hard time believing these lines are going to stay together throughout the whole game.
Yeah, if I were to do anything on the Tampa side, I would just keep focusing on the power play because Tampa's power play has been great basically all season. And the one weakness Winnipeg really does have is the penalty kill. The penalty kill, I was looking to see if it had improved at all in December. And over the last 4 weeks, they're last in the league by shots against while shorthanded. So the Winnipeg penalty kill could be the Achilles heel tonight. So that's why, if you just want to play like Kucherov and Stamkos, I think you can do that. If you want to play like Point and Kucherov, go ahead. I think those stacks are definitely in play. I just like the Winnipeg side here. Tampa Bay is missing half their blue line. Sergachev is out, Chernak is out, Fleury's out, right? So they're gonna have to lean on Victor Hedman a lot more. They're gonna have to lean on Nick Perbix and Darren Radish, Calvin DeHaan, those guys. They're gonna have to lean on them a lot more than they probably want to. And when any team's missing half their defensemen, that's usually a sign that I should probably at least consider who's playing against them. And you're right on Winnipeg, 4.3% ownership, 6.5% top two stack on DraftKings here tonight. Even if that comes up because of the injuries, if it's 5-6% or something, I think that's perfectly fine because this Winnipeg line has just been torching teams. And this is where I'll say, this is where samples can kind of lead people astray because I was looking at Winnipeg's last 10 games. They include Chicago, Montreal, Detroit, Anaheim, San Jose, and Minnesota twice. That's not really a brutal match. Minnesota's good 5-on-5, but terrible on the PK. But Winnipeg has just been absolutely shredding teams. 4.2 expected goals per 60 minutes for that top line since Velarde came back. 79 shot attempts, all on the top line. Tampa Bay's penalty kill has been fine, but nothing elite or anything like that. With all those injuries, once I saw that Sergachev isn't going to come back and that Chernak was going to miss time, the Winnipeg top line has been moving up my stack ranking. So they're in my top 5 for top stacks here tonight. They're not top 5 in the top stacks tool. The big boys, Colorado, Edmonton, Pittsburgh, those guys are there. But Winnipeg is in the top 10 in the top stacks tool. They're top 5 in my personal rankings. I really do like Winnipeg one. I can't tell if it's a flowchart game because it's it's not really a brutal game, but Vasilevsky's in net, but they're missing half their defensemen. It'll be interesting to see what the flowchart reads at the end of it, but I really do like Winnipeg one here. They're basically the only stack I'm interested in this game.
Yeah. Sorry. Florida Panthers with a 3.3 total heading into Arizona. The Coyotes have a 2.7. No one's playing Florida one again. Why? I don't know. They're one of the best lines in the NHL. Now, if you want to leave off Evan Rodriguez and add Carter Verhaeghe or Tkachuk to make it a power play stack, I think power play stacking is perfectly viable here. You want to go to Florida too. They're coming in with 6.5% projected ownership, but the top line coming in under 1% projected. They are $2,000 more expensive. Excuse me. It doesn't really matter that this game's in Arizona and they're going to see the Kerfoot line. That line is their best defensive line, but Barkov, Reinhart, Rodriguez are an absolute wagon, and matchups don't concern me. I like Florida one here. You want to play Florida two? Be my guest. I am keen on a power play stack as well. On the Arizona side, I think I'll just go back to my boys, Arizona 2, Krause, Bukestad, Michelli. you want to play that top line, it's fine, but they're going to see a fair bit of that Barkov line, and that just doesn't interest me.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Arizona does here tonight, because they had been using the Michelli line, even with Kerfoot on the top line. They had been using the Michelli line in a shutdown role more often. And the defensive numbers for the Michelli line really have been on kind of a slide. 2.8 expected goals against over their last 125 minutes together. Like, that's about 10, 11 games worth of ice time. That's below average defensively. And if you have a below average defensive line going out against Barkov, Reinhart, and Rodriguez, your goalies might have a bad time in net. Like, that's kind of what I'm looking at here, is that, it's Vejmelka starting, not Ingram. Ingram's been the better goalie going back to last year. So you have the weaker goalie in net for Arizona. Barkov, Reinhart, and Rodriguez have been on a tear the last 4 weeks. 3.4 expected goals, 4.9 actual goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Arizona penalty kill, not very good. Like, they're not taking a lot of penalties is the one thing that's kind of saving them. But over their last 4 weeks, 11th or 4th most shots against, 5th most goals against per minute while shorthanded. It's a pretty good matchup for Florida 1. You were talking about that ownership, like 0.5% ownership on that top line. Nobody's playing this line. 3.3 total is not huge, but you got to think it's going to be the top 6 that figures into the scoring. So it's a really good matchup for Barkov's line at 5-on-5. Arizona power play or penalty kill, has been really bad. They have their weaker goalie in net. Like, these are a lot of reasons why I have a lot of interest in Florida 1 here tonight. They're just outside my top 5. They're just outside the top 10 per the top stacks tool, top 2 percentage. But when you factor in that absolutely no one is playing them, I really do have a lot of interest in Florida 1. If people want to play Florida 2, like, absolutely no issue with that either. It's not like it's a brutal matchup going up against the Kerfoot line or the depth from Arizona. You still get 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play unit. They're a much cheaper line. You save $2K, gets you a better defenseman, gets you a better stack elsewhere, whatever. So no issue going to Florida 2. I just think it's a really, really good matchup for Florida 1, and they're getting absolutely no ownership. So I really do like the Barkov line here. I also don't mind the Arizona top line on the flip side. They have been better with Kerfoot there. Like, they were really like sucking wind with Logan Cooley as their center, or basically anybody since Barrett Hayton got hurt. They finally moved up Kerfoot. They've started generating a lot more expected goals. They're up to about 2.8 expected goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Their actual goals with Kerfoot up there, up 30% at 5-on-5 as compared to Cooley or whomever else that they might have had there since Hayton got hurt. So I don't mind the Arizona top line either, but it is not nearly as good of a matchup as Florida. So I do like Florida 1 here.
Yeah, and KG says, Erod not at morning skate. Update's supposed to be during warm-up, so hopefully that means he's maybe just battling an illness and on injury. We'll have to wait and see there.
Well, I'm looking at a tweet from Jameson Olive, who's the content manager for the Panthers, and he says he's on the ice.
Okay.
I'm looking at a tweet from 9 minutes ago.
Okay. Maybe he had some bad curry last night or something and just needed to clear it out. You know what I mean? It's happened to everybody. Philadelphia, what was I going to say? I was going to say the Phillies. Philadelphia Flyers with a 2.8 total. Heading into Edmonton, the Oilers have a 3.6. Man, what was it the other night? It was Warren Fogle night. He had 5-point game. Don't know if I'm going to go back to the Fogle experience, but this is an interesting matchup because McDavid's line is getting under 5% ownership here, and they're 22,800, which isn't like egregious. The issue I have here is the Flyers' penalty kill is legitimately one of the best in the league. They're also going to see the Couturier line a fair bit. Now, it's probably with Owen Tippett there instead of Tyson Forrester. I'm not exactly sure what that does for them defensively.
It's one of these, thanks, Torts, because they did mix up their lines quite a bit in their last game, and Flyers are Flyers, so, you know.
Like, on one hand, McDavid, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, they can absolutely bury anyone on the penalty kill. 13 game slate at 5%. I think that makes them a very, very good MME play. Do you want to hinge your night on them in single entry? I think you can, because anytime you get low in ownership on McDavid, you know, and he goes off, there you go. But like apples being apples, I think there's other spots that I prefer more. Now you can absolutely do it. I just think if there's any time to fade them at low ownership, it's against one of the best penalty kills in the NHL. I'm interested to get your thoughts on the Flyers, because it's like maybe there isn't many thoughts because Torts is a scene, but you know, it is the Oilers, and here comes the Oilers.
Yeah, I just think it is just a really, really bad matchup. Like that's just kind of what it is. And the other thing that I think is notable is like they still have a 3.6 total, even though like all things equal, I don't know how many worse defensive matchups there are in the NHL right now. Like Los Angeles, probably.
Florida.
Yeah, Florida, maybe. But like Flyers are definitely one of the top, like Carolina, now that Kochekhov's obviously playing better, but like the Flyers would be one of the top 5 defensive teams in the league. That being said, it is Edmonton, right? Like they can absolutely crush anybody. Like even with Kochetkov playing better, they hung 6 on Carolina about a month ago. They did get their brains beat in by Florida at home. Like Florida beat them 5-1 at home. But they are still, the top line still is generating a lot. Like they're still over 4.8 expected goals per 60 minutes over their last 9 games, 4 actual goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 over their last 9 games. Like they're still creating a lot, but they're going to see a fair bit of the Couturier matchup, which they're still playing great defense. It is a bad PK or power play spot for Edmonton. Philly's below average by time shorthanded per game. Like on a slate this large, the Edmonton top line is always going to come in with, I don't want to say low ownership, because I think sometimes they do come in a little bit higher than what we have, because there will be, casual players or even just smart players being like, you know what, I'll play Connor McDavid tonight. But I just don't think it's the right spot for him here tonight. Like I will never say like, don't play Connor McDavid or anything like that. Like that would just be absolutely ridiculous. But I think when there are so many lines in that like 17 to 20K range that are kind of getting overlooked, I think it is a night where, you don't have to be like, oh, I don't want to miss out on, 6% Edmonton 1 or 8% Edmonton 1 or whatever. So I'm not super excited about them. Edmonton 2 is actually kind of interesting. Now, I feel like it's chasing points because Warren Fogle did have that 5-point game. But Fogle and Draisaitl have generally just played extremely well together this season. Like they're up at about 150 minutes together, and they're at about 4 expected goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. That's Draisaitl and Fogle. That's absolutely absurd. Their numbers really, really good in a smaller sample with McLeod next to them. So where they're going to avoid the Couturier matchup, and it is a really bad power play spot for Edmonton, this is actually one of the nights where I don't mind even strength stacking the Edmonton second line going against the depth from the Flyers. And if the Edmonton power play does get a goal or two, you do have Draisaitl who's going to be skating with them. So I'm not super excited about stacking Edmonton here tonight. Like I said, I'll never say no to stacking Connor McDavid. Like if you want to, by all rights, do it. There's going to be low-ish ownership. I just think that this is one of the nights and one of the matchups where I wouldn't mind playing the Edmonton second line. On the Philly side, considering we might be in tough to actually know who's playing for Philly here tonight. I think it would definitely be one of those spots where one-off, Bobby Brink, certainly a one-off Konechny, something like that, I think is fine, but I'm not looking to stack the Flyers here.
Yeah, that is fair. If you do use our affiliate link, you can use promo code NHL Strategy for 10% off NHL packages. You can choose between weekly, monthly. You can add on Fantasy Cruncher. You don't have to add on Fantasy Cruncher. It's up to you, depending on what type of player you are. Thanks, Fantasy Cruncher. New York Islanders with a 2.8 total heading into Colorado. The Avs have a 3.6 total. Whoever Jared Bednar listening to me, putting Valerie Nichushkin on the second line to depress his price. Thank you. We didn't really want to be playing 28,000 Colorado 1. That being said, he put Johnny Drouin up there. I guess, like, fine. Like, he's on the power play, right? It is a good power play matchup. It's just like he just I don't know how to say this nicely. He just sucks. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't love the idea of it. It's just this is a good power play spot. The Islanders penalty kill sucks. So, like, at 12% ownership here at 21.8, I guess it's fine. You can leave him off and add in Nichushkin if you want to pay like 26 and change for a line or 25 and change. It's just a really good power play spot. It's a whole season thing. Like, they haven't been good. And the Islanders also scratched Pierre Engvall. Healthy scratched him.
Yeah, they did say he's going to be back tonight in his usual spot. So, mercifully, he's going to be back.
I just, like, why? Like, NHL coaches just get bored, I think. That's what it is. Like, they just start doing stuff. Anyway, Colorado 1 is in play for me. I think one-offing Valerie Nichushkin or two-manning him with, Wood is fine. I'm kind of – this feels like more of like an Edmonton thing. You focus on the power play guys here. On the Islanders side, like, hopefully Engvall's back on that second line. And if so, like, I have a little bit of interest in Nelson Palmieri Engvall. I like that top line, but they're going to see, a fair bit of McKinnon and Ranton, and that's just wagon season. So, like, a little bit of the Islanders too in on Colorado power play.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Colorado won, like, perfectly fine to play. You just want to stack, the power play forwards, if you want to add Nichushkin or whatever, like, absolutely no issues with that. Here's the thing is, like, Nichushkin is probably, like, of Nichushkin and Rantanen and Drouin, I don't think it's that far of a stretch to say that Nichushkin is the best defensive winger of the three of them, right? And if you're replacing him with Jonathan Drouin on the top line, you're going to make that line a lot worse defensively. And as much offense as McKinnon, Rantanen, and Nichushkin were generating, they were allowing a little bit defensively anyway. And Colorado's top line numbers, 2.7 expected goals against with Jonathan Drouin there in about a 95-minute sample. Like, that's below average. And I think that's something that the Islanders top line can take advantage of. And the Islanders top line for like a month now has been really, really good. 3.7 expected goals for, 4.5 actual goals for over their last 110 minutes together. They've been able to take advantage of their matchups that they do get, whatever matchups that they are. I do think the Colorado top line is weaker now, both offensively and defensively. Like, I get that you have to move somebody off to try to balance the lineup because you can't just keep playing with one line every single night. But I kind of think that they moved the wrong winger. That's neither here nor there. I just think the Colorado top line is just going to be worse by every metric at 5-on-5. And I think that's going to help out the Islanders top line. And the Islanders top line is not getting any ownership here. They're coming in at 1%, top two stack percentage of nearly 3%. Colorado does take a fair bit amount of penalties. They're the 7th most penalized team in the league, tied for 6th actually so far this season. Their goalies have been starting to let them down a little bit on the penalty kill as well. I don't know if I would, if I'm gung-ho on playing the Islanders top line, like in a single entry or anything like that. If I was playing 20 max or 150, this is one of those under-owned lines that I would be considering because I don't think the matchup is as daunting as it appears. But yeah, it is Colorado 1 that I do like best in this game. You still get, I wrote up Nathan McKinnon for a reason. The guy had just an unbelievable month. Him and Rantanen have been dynamite together. And the thing is what I mentioned in the Picks article, writing up McKinnon, it's like, yes, it's not only that he plays a lot of minutes, it's that he always plays a lot of minutes. It's 22 straight games with at least 20 minutes of ice time for McKinnon. For a forward, that is absolutely absurd. Even Connor McDavid hasn't done that. So, yeah, no issue playing Colorado 1 here, obviously. I do think, like, my favorite kind of under-owned line in this game is the Islanders top line.
Yeah, McKinnon, no processed food in his diet. Probably helps. Doesn't big anti-pasta guy. But yeah, I kind of agree with you that they should have moved Rantanen. McKinnon doesn't need Rantanen to be the explosive player that he is. And Rantanen can almost kind of carry a second line. So I don't know. Lekkonen's been skating, so he's hopefully will be back soon. And then decisions get easier. Let's talk about the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa Senators, the 3.1 total heading into Vancouver. The Canucks have a 3.6 total. I just can't with the Senators anymore. I wanted to play them. This coach was running practice lines of Kachuk, Stützle, Giroux, and I was like, finally, the slapdick new coach gonna run this line. Wrong. Gamesmanship runs out Norris, Kachuk, Giroux, Norris, Kachuk, Batherson in consecutive games, and that line is just not it. And I don't know, like Stützle, Batherson, Tarasenko is fine, but like I like the Vancouver second line here. I know what you're saying. Oh, Philip DiGiuseppe is back on that line, but like, go look at the numbers. With any winger, with Brock Besser and JT Miller, they have the best numbers with Philip DiGiuseppe. He's Philip DiGiuseppe. You can leave him off and add in Quinn Hughes, make it a power play stack. Go about your day. Ottawa takes a lot of penalties. The penalty kill's not very good. The Ottawa Senators just aren't very good.
Yeah.
I like Vancouver. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, they're not very good. Sorry.
Yeah. I like Ottawa 2 here. Or Ottawa 2, excuse me. Freudian slip. I like Vancouver 2 here. You want to go to Vancouver 1. I guess it's fine. Power play stack, perfectly fine. On the Ottawa side, as long as Norris is centering the top line, I don't have any interest there. I guess you could play Ottawa 2, Stützle, Batherson, Tarasenko. That's more of an MME thing for me, though.
Yeah, I did write up the JT Miller line in my picks article today. You know, one of the reasons for that is like that's second, like they're probably going to see a fair bit of that Batherson, Tarasenko, Stützle line. Batherson, Tarasenko, Stützle has not been good defensively this season. 3.2 expected goals against per 60 minutes. And I was actually looking at Ottawa's numbers to see if Jacques Martin been helping the team defense, and it's actually been worse since he was named head coach and they fired DJ Smith. So that's not going well. The other thing is the Ottawa penalty kill has just been real bad, right? Like that's one thing that hadn't been completely killing them, but it has been getting a little bit worse of late by goals against per 60 minutes on the PK over the last 4 weeks. They're allowing the third most in the league, and they also take a lot of penalties, and they've been taking more and more penalties of late. They're the fifth most penalized team in the league. You get Miller and Besser both on the top power play unit. I agree. Like, I think you can leave off DiGiuseppe and just make it a more expensive power play stack by adding Pettersson or adding, Quinn Hughes on the blue line, make it a 2-man forward, 1 defenseman stack, like something like that. But I think this is just a matchup that really favors Vancouver. Now, Vancouver's power play has actually not been that great of late, but I feel like this is the ultimate slump busting spot. You know what I mean? You have an Ottawa team that's coming in that's been playing very undisciplined, whose penalty kill has not been very good. Ottawa's been winning of late, but, they gave up 6 goals to New Jersey. They gave up 4 goals to Pittsburgh. They gave up 6 goals to Colorado. Like, this is a team that has been allowing a lot of goals, even under Jacques Martin. So if you want to turn a power play stack, to perfectly fine on the Vancouver side. I do like the JT Miller line here. On the Ottawa side, like, if anything, I would probably go to that Ottawa second line, Stützle, Batherson, Tarasenko, because I think in turn it's not a bad defensive or offensive matchup for them. And Vancouver's penalty kill has been better. The goalies really haven't. But the one thing Ottawa can hang its hat on is they do draw a lot of power plays. They get the second most power plays per game of any team. Vancouver's penalty kill has largely struggled this year. You do get Stützle and Batherson on the top power play unit. So I do think I like both second lines in this game more than both top lines. But it is the Vancouver power play guys that I like most by quite a bit.
Yeah, I was looking at the NHL standings just to see, President's Cup race. Not that that matters at this point. Rangers are leading. But did you know the Canucks are leading the league in goal differential this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, they did have that absolutely insane start, right? Like they had that start where, it seemed like they were winning like 6-2 or 7-1 basically every third game or something. But
That's true. So crazy.
I mean, hey, Rick Tocchet, you got to hand it to him, man. He's got them playing extremely well.
Yeah, that surprised me a little bit. Toronto Maple Leafs. Hey, the 3.1 total heading into LA. The Kangs have a 3.4 total. The Leafs put Samsonov on waiver. Did they turn the team over to Marty Jones?
Yeah, it's Marty. They said Marty Jones might end up starting because I think the Leafs play tomorrow as well. They said he might end up starting both games.
Yeah, because Wall's not ready, and they put Samsonov on waivers.
Yeah, they have. I can't even think of the kid's name, but they have their AHL backup backing up Marty Jones right now.
Yes, I love this team so much. Anyway, now that I got that out of there, I still need to hire the mariachi band, but we'll take care of that. Weirdly, not a lot of ownership here on LA. Like, why? The Leafs suck. Like, they're good offensively. They're going to score goals, right? They're just not very good defensively. Marty Jones, any goalie can go on a hot streak, but it's Marty Jones. He has a history of just not being it. Kempe, Kopitar, Byfield, under 1% projected. More Fiala Deneau, 3.3% projected. The only line with negative leverage is Dubois, Kaliev, Laferriere because they're under 10K to full stack. I think either of the top two lines are perfectly fine here. Just the matter of your cup of tea or how you're building because the more Fiala Deneau line is $1,200 cheaper. Obviously lets you fit in more stuff. I think either are fine. Now, what to do on the Toronto side is a bit more interesting because the Matthews line is literally getting no ownership. Like none. Nada. Nilch. Josh is scaring me. Join the club, my friend. This is who I am. I'm just a crazy person. It is what it is. Matthews, Marner, knees at 0.2%. Like the Kings are an unbelievably good defensive team. There's no doubt about that. The goaltending is where I have issues, right? Because Talbot is good, but can he handle the volume as a number one goalie in 2024? Not sure. I think in MME, I am interested in both the Leafs top six lines or top two lines here because they're coming in combined at 0.9%. So I think getting over the field there is super easy, not hard. And I think they're a decent MME play. So I like both top six lines in this game. Prefer the Kings side.
Yeah, I do like the Kings second line here tonight. The one thing that I do like to look at is just to see how, because these lines have basically been together quite a bit. Not all season. Obviously, Dubois was up there earlier. They have been together, for most of this year. The Kempe, Kopitar, Byfield line, their defensive numbers are still outstanding. Don't get me wrong. They've been struggling to generate shot quality of late. Their expected goals for numbers have been down quite a bit. The last 4 weeks, 2.6 expected goals for. That's led to only 2.2 actual goals for per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. And it hasn't really been a brutal stretch of games. Their last 10 games, both New York teams, San Jose twice, actually, Calgary, it hasn't been a brutal stretch for them, and they're still struggling to generate. I kind of like the second line a little bit more because they're going in the other direction. They've been generating a lot, 3.7 expected goals, 3.7 actual goals over that same 4-week stretch. They're also getting more ice time. They're getting 18 to 19 minutes a game, give or take, on average over that the last few weeks. So I do, and I wrote up Phil Deneau because he's actually had, I think it's multiple shots in 5 or 6 straight games. He's not, pouring it on like Trevor Moore or Adrian Kempe, but he's actually staying pretty involved offensively. But I do like the Kings second line here. It's what to do with the Toronto side because this is a pretty bad matchup for the Leafs, but a 3.1 total is not nothing, right? Like, it's higher than Tampa. It's the same as the Ottawa team that we just talked about. It's higher than Carolina. Like, it's not nothing. And, you know, that Toronto top line over the last 4 weeks, 4.1 actual goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. I don't mind taking a stab with Toronto one here just because there's absolutely no ownership. Like, the top stacks tool, like you said, 0.0. When you can get like 1% Austin Matthews, I don't care if it is a 13-game slate. Like, you have to consider it. I don't care what the matchup is. And they have been scoring. They have been generating offense, even with, you know, terrible Mitch Marner there. So I think it is the Toronto top line that I would lean to. I don't mind playing either line here tonight. If you want to just do like Matthews and Nylander and play two guys from different lines, because like those are the guys that generate the offense for their lines. And obviously play together on the power play. I think that's fine, but it is Toronto 1 that I do like better, but I think it's LA 2 that I like best in this game.
I tend to agree there. Excuse me, I got a call. All right, let's get to the last game of the night here. It is a Shark Fest. Detroit. Oh, God, this game sucks. Detroit Red Wings with a 3.7 total. Heading into San Jose, the Sharks have a 2.9 total. The Wings should be ashamed of themselves for giving the Sharks a 2.9 total. That is their highest total this season. There's no ownership on Detroit here. There's more ownership on the Sharks. And, like, I kind of prefer the Sharks. It's like, I don't love these lines for Detroit. That's the issue, right? Larkin, Raymond, Perron, like, sounds good. Is it, though? DeBrincat, Kane, Confer, sounds good. Like, Kane has looked very good this season. I think the hips seem a bit healthier. I don't know.
The hips aren't lying is what you're saying.
Yeah, Shakira. Anyway. But I guess you could leave Confer off and make it like a Larkin, Kane, DeBrincat. Like, I'm fine with that. That's expensive, but they have a 3.7 total, and it's the Sharks. Like, you can power play stack. You can 5-on-5 stack. That's fine. Like, if it was Larkin, Kane, DeBrincat at 5-on-5, like, yeah, I'll play that line for sure. I think Larkin, Raymond, Perron, fine. I think Confer, Kane, DeBrincat, fine. I prefer like a Larkin, Kane, DeBrincat power play stack, and I'll go about my day. I do have some interest in Hurdle, Eklund, Duclair. Like, the Wings are just not good defensively. Their penalty kill is bad. The Sharks power play at home, surprisingly somewhat good. I don't mind taking a stab on the Sharks top line. The Sharks second line with Granlund, Zetterlund, Hoffman, they're coming in. Their ownership is 7x their top two stack percentage. And like, it's Mikael Granlund. Like, yes, he's been fine. But like, and yeah, he went through that stretch where he shoots the puck, but like, he hasn't been shooting as much. I'm in on San Jose 1. I'm fine with Detroit top 6. I prefer Detroit power play stack.
Yeah, I think it's San Jose 1 for me. I wrote up Anthony Duclair in the picks article. What I mentioned is that Duclair's shot rate hasn't been that great this year, but no one on San Jose's really is, so like, can't really ding him for that. But his shot rate has been a lot higher in the minutes that he has skated next to Philip Hurdle. Over 26% more shot attempts when he's skating next to Hurdle than when he's anywhere else in the lineup. So, and I also noticed at morning skate today, they were going with a 5-forward power play. And I think it was Duclair that took Kalen Addison's spot. Like, he's not going to be running the power play from the blue line, but he's going to be the 5th forward. So now you get two guys on the top power play unit for that San Jose top line. So I do like them, like lower ownership, much lower ownership than San Jose 2. So it'd be I agree with you. It's San Jose 1 for me in this game. The question is really what to do with Detroit, because, man, this is confounding. One thing that's gone kind of under discussed for Detroit is David Perron has been. I'm trying not to swear.
He's been
absolutely god awful this season. Like Andrew Kopp bad. His expected goals against for and against metrics are second worst on the team. Only Kopp has been worse. I was looking at some of the tracking metrics, scoring chances, at least one standard deviation below average, shot assists, which are passes leading to teammate shots, over standard deviation below league average. Rush offense, over standard deviation below average. Cycle offense, over standard deviation below average. Zone entries, over standard. Like, he's been absolutely just terrible across the board offensively. And I guess that's why you're putting him with Larkin, because you have to try to get Perron going so that you can get a good top six. But I think all that's going to do is just drag down Larkin. Like, I want to see Perron play better before I see him on the top line, like, of all places. So until I see some improvements from Perron, like, I have a really hard time stacking that line. So would beat the Brinkat Kane Comfort. They're coming in at 2.4% ownership. I got to think that's going to be higher, considering they're perfectly correlated on the power play and it's a big total. And like, I think I don't want to say more casual players, but I think a lot of people remember just how bad San Jose's been basically this entire season. And ownership will probably come in like higher, but even at like 5-6%, I don't mind that. Kane and DeBrincat are really struggling to generate offense when they're not playing with Larkin, though. Not sure JT Compher's the guy to do it, but they are perfectly correlated on the power play. It's a really, really good matchup against San Jose. Like, there's no matchup concerns on the San Jose side whatsoever. So it would be the DeBrincat Kane Compher I prefer. Like, I want to play Larkin. I agree with you. I just don't know if they can get anything done with Perron. Like, put Perron on the slander list, Clayton, because like he's my number one target on today's. Because I'm a big fan of his. Like, I was a big fan of that signing, and I think he can do wonders for them when he's playing well. He's just not. He just hasn't played well at all through the first 3 months. So it is Detroit 2 and San Jose 1 for me in this game. I honestly think I'd probably lean San Jose 1 because of the price difference, but I don't want to overlook Detroit 2 because it is a massive total, and San Jose still sucks.
Yeah, and I think their ownership will come up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be anything egregious because there just hasn't been a ton of ownership against the Sharks recently for whatever reason, and these lines for Detroit are kind of ugh. But so, like, yeah, that probably comes up a little bit, but nothing crazy. I don't know, man. Like, Detroit had one of the weirdest off seasons 2 seasons ago or last season, whatever season they signed Compher and Kopp. It feels like 3 years ago, but I think it was this past off season. It's just, I don't know, not working. Anyway, coming up after us, I forgot to write down who's coming up after us, but I kind of know the schedule. We have the NBA Deeper Dive at.
Well, I know the live before lock with EMAC and Neil is at 6 Eastern.
That was from the last.
Oh, that was last week. Okay, sorry.
That's the weekend live before lock crew, and yep. I forgot to update it, but we do have NBA Deeper Dive, NBA Live before lock. If you just go on Stokastic.com, you'll see the schedule. My bad. That's my bad. Let's talk a little bit about defensemen here. Top of the board, Cale Makar, 8,200. I think he's in a good spot. Then you have Noah Dobson, not super high on him tonight. Quinn Hughes, 7K. He hasn't been shooting as much as he was in the beginning of the season, but I think this is a good spot. Also, Roman Josi, under 7K for the first time since 1874. I think that it's a really good spot for him. Who else you liking?
Yeah, I think for that reason, there's a decent, like, we have him as Stokastic has him as the highest projected player on the DraftKings board, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Josi is my number one defenseman, ownership agnostic. Do have Quinn Hughes. Like, he has been shooting less, but what I mentioned in the picks article about Quinn Hughes is he's had a bunch of games this season where he's had at least 18 DraftKings points and 3 or fewer shots on goal. So, like, he doesn't need the peripherals to have big games, especially against this Sens team. I also wrote up Josh Morrissey. Like, I think he might get overlooked despite it being, like, not a bad spot for Winnipeg here tonight. The mid-price range, Charlie McAvoy under 6K, great power play spot for Boston. I really do like McAvoy. Heiskanen for Dallas as well. Shane Gostisbehere for Detroit, still not a bad power play spot for them. For the cheaper guys, Mason Lohrei and Alex Vlasic and Aaron Ekblad are near the top of my list. Ekblad, he's not really putting up a lot of peripherals, and I think that's why his price is staying down. Vlasic has been playing a lot more minutes of late with Seth Jones out of the lineup, so that's why I have Alex Vlasic there. Ben Sherratt from Detroit as well. Ben Sherrod's been a weird player. It seems like every once in a while he just wants to take the puck and lug it. Sometimes he gets a point, sometimes he doesn't. Against San Jose, that seems like a fair bet. With Tampa Bay missing all their players, I have Nick Perbix, 2,900, as one of my favorite cheap guys on the slate here tonight. Ethan Bear played over 20 minutes for Washington in his first game in a Caps uniform. He's only 2,700 on DraftKings. I like him as a punt. Igor Zamula. I was actually looking at some of the scoring chance data, small samples and all that from the early parts of the season. Zamula is actually rated pretty well for his minutes. Like, he's not going to play a lot. He might only play 14, 15, 16 minutes. But I don't mind him if you need like a full punt $2,500 defenseman.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about goalies here. I'm not gonna run through them. I'm just gonna say the ones I like because I don't like any of them. No, but don't mind Demko if he starts at 8,200. I do like Igor Shesterkin at 7,500. Oh, kill me. Igor sucks. He's really good. So relax. Connor Hellebuck. Maybe some shot volume concerns there, but I do like him. On the flip side of that game, I think Vasilevsky's okay. This is giving me migraines to say it, but I don't mind Jacob Markstrom. And then going all the way down here, like Montembeault at 6,900. And whoever's starting for the Sharks. God, that hurt.
I think it's Kakinen starting, so
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I wrote up Igor in the picks article. Like, him and Demko would be my top, like, expensive-ish goalies. I also have Ingram and Markstrom on my list. Like, I think this is a pretty good spot. Or I had Ingram, on my list, but it is Vejmelka starting. I'm not nearly as high on Vejmelka starting. So I think it's Jacob Markstrom that I actually don't mind. There's no Kirill Kaprizov, so I'm not nearly as concerned about Minnesota's offense here. Markstrom has been a lot better after like the first month of the season. For cheaper guys, if you want to go with Spencer Martin for Columbus, go with God. That feels like it's a really tough matchup. Chicago's starting Soderblom, if I'm not mistaken, and he's only 6,800. He's been pretty bad, but Nashville, if their top line doesn't really fill the net, I'm not super worried about the offense. Chicago's penalty kill has been fine. So if you need a sub 7K goalie on DraftKings tonight, I think the guy's Soderblom.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a goalie you like, just play him. I hate goalies. Everyone, I think, is in agreement that goalies are not human. But who you liking for your hat trick pick?
I'm going to go with one of my favorite stacks on the night and one of the wingers that has really come alive over the last month, and Nikolai Ehlers.
Nice. I'm going to go. It's not like a classic Josh pick, and it kind of makes me nervous, but nervous is good sometimes. I'm going Sam Reinhart.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Maybe have to mix it up to actually hit one for the first time since the French Revolution of 1812 or whatever it was. But anyway, we will be back on Thursday. Make sure to smash that like button on the way out. Hit that affiliate link if you are thinking about joining or renewing. Thank you very much for your support, and good luck, everybody.
Wasn't the War of 1812 just called the War of 1812?
Yes. But I also threw the French Revolution in there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. History lesson aside, good luck tonight, everybody.